Well, I show about the primary market, namely gallery and art fair. Well, in 1950s, gallery began to be established. And actually, after the Seoul Olympic Games, namely 1990s, already 200 galleries was established nationwide. And in 1975-9, Galleries Association of Korea established. Now it has 143 members. And they have a main business like protection of rights and interests of the members, galleries, and appraisal of the articles, and hold on art fairs like KEONG and the Seoul Art Fair. Well, it's the scene of the major art galleries. The first is, well, the Gallery Hyundai. Gallery Hyundai has 3 branches in Sagandong and Gangnam, Jannan. And Ghana Art Space and the Gukje Gallery, which deals so many overseas artist goods. And then Hakkoje. Yeah. It started from the Korean traditional painting, but now both Korean traditional and contemporary art. Well, it's very interesting thing is the location moving of galleries in Seoul. Until 10 years, so many galleries were gathered in the Insadong. Insadong is the very traditional street in Seoul, old street. But so many tourists visit there, and there are so many restaurants and drinking places there. So many galleries moved from Insadong to outside the Insadong. And 30 years ago, the development boom was happened in southern part. The southern part of Han River is the Jannan, Gangnam. The Gangnam means as you know, see the southern part of the Seoul Han River. So nowadays the Gangnam means the rich district in Seoul. So Gangnam style means the some rich, crazy boy and girls place like that. It's one of the critique actually, but everybody follows that the critique. It is more interesting. Well, it is the artwork of Mr. Kim Jong-ha, who painting a Korean soba's flowers on the mountain and the suburbs. It's the 9 meters, very big size. And as you know, the Mr. Oh Chi-gyun, who paints by fingers, are now very popular in Korean art market. Well, this is the list of the Korean 5 major galleries. They have their own gallery artist like Baek Nam-jun, Lee Hwan, Kim Chang-yeol. Mr. Kim Chang-yeol has now the exhibition in the Taipei Art Museum. And some the overseas artists and Ghana Art Space, Mr. Bae Byung, a photographer, Go Young-won, the painter of realism, hyperrealism, something like that. And the Gukje Gallery has their one Lee Fu-hwan, Lee Gi-bong, Yang Hae-gyu. She is premier at the Venice Biennale, and Park So-go, Kim Soo-ja. So she acts in the United States. 정연도 photographer, and overseas artist GÜLERYÜZ, Julian Opie, Inchcapo, GÜLERYÜZ, Bill Viola, something like that. And Hakoje and Arario, these three has over 30 years history and about 10 or 20. And they participate in the overseas art fairs at Hong Kong, Fridge, New York, Aomori at the stage, Singapore, Berlin, ABC. And especially the Kukje Gallery is participating in the very big art fair at Basel, Fridge, FIAC, Aomori at Hong Kong. Well, this gentleman is Mr. Kim Chang-yeol, who holds the exhibition in Taipei Art Museum. And the young artist who make an artworks with the blue jeans. She is one of the famous Korean artists through Hong Kong market. And sometimes the overseas artists hold an exhibition in Korea. It was the one scene of the Gerard Lito, who made a world record this year in the auction. And this is the corporate collection. Nowadays, companies and corporate started to interest in the public arts. And we Korean has a law, the over 1,000 meter scale to build this big construction. The people have to has public arts by law. Well, here is the number of the about the KEONG and Seoul Art Fairs from 2007 to this year. The turnover, if we see the turnover, the 2007 were peak, but after that, by influence of the global economic recession, the turnover began to decrease. But the number of the visitors increased. And you can see the KEONG started as an international art fair. So over 100, about 60 or 100 overseas galleries participate in KEONG. And for only the domestic galleries, there is the Seoul Art Fair, and it has the turnover and the number of visitors. This is not a picture, it's a model. It's the scene from KEONG. And nowadays, it is the simple trend hold art fairs in hotel. That you see the Asia Top Gallery Hotel, and in Seoul, in Hong Kong, or in Japan, just like that. And we have 3 or 4 hotel art fairs in Korea. I saw the karaoke art fair in Japan. It's the Japanese style. Well, in Korea, about 20 art fairs held annually. It is the turnover about 31.9 billion won, Korean won. It's 28.48 million US dollars. And now I talk about the secondary market auction. Well, it is a scene where the most expensive artworks were sold in Seoul auction, and by the 4.5 billion wons. Well, we can see the turnover, the auction market's results. Well, as you see the others, the 2007 were peak also in the auction market, and yeah, turnover. But after that, very deeply decreases. So nowadays, the Korean art market totally feel the difficulties to management. Well, from 2000 to last year, the top five artists whose artworks were sold at the auction market. The first was Mr. Park Soo-gun, and second was Lee Jung-seok and Kim Han-gi, and Korean ink artist Chon Kyung-ja, and minimal abstract artist Yoo Young-guk. And nowadays, from Mr. Park Soo-gun and Lee Jung-seok, Mr. Kim Han-gi is the most popular artist in Korean art market. Well, you see the list of the 10 artists. Well, among them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 were deceased, and Mr. Lee Hwan is living, and Kim Jong-hak, and Oh Chi-gyun. And Mr. Lee Hwan had an exhibition in Guggenheim recently, so he began to get international fame. Yeah. Beside them, the Kim Jong-hak, the flower artist, and then Mr. Oh Chi-gyun. When people sell and buy the very expensive artworks, I play mosaic of the sold artworks like that. It's the mosaic of artworks of Mr. Park Soo-gun. Actually, the washing place is very Korean, specific artworks to show the Korean life in 1950s and the 60s. We cannot see this scene anymore. So Mr. Park Soo-gun is very important artist in the Korean modern art history itself. And Mr. Kim Han-gi, who studied in Paris and New York, he studied abroad, but he did not follow the Western style. So you can see the many elements of the Oriental traditional paintings, like a cherry and the basil, something like that. And about Mr. Lee Hwan, well, he showed several series of his artworks. Though he lives and lived after 1960s in Japan, and he now acts in 1/3 in Japan, 1/3 in Korea, and 1/3 abroad, New York or Paris. And as you know, the Iwan is most famous worldwide. I accent we have to put first the family name, where if you see the reports of art price of French, you can see the Li Wuhan and Wuhan Li in the same book. It's the very scandal of the art price. You can see the report of 4 years ago, maybe. But anyway, it means that our Asian artists were not popular in the Western countries. So we needed to exchange the exhibition between Taiwan and Korea, I propose. And some artists who act abroad. One of them is Mr. Baek Nam-jun, the founder of Video Art, and Liver, Kim Suja, Sodo, Kang Ik-jung, and in Japan, Lee Hwan. Yes, those artists were introduced through the Christie Hong Kong and worldwide occasioned art fairs and Biennale. And nowadays, it is one of the trend have an exhibition or the selling through the whole Christie's Hong Kong, because we Koreans have Christie's branch in Seoul, but we don't have a branch of Sotheby's. So many Korean artists prefer to show their artworks through Christie Hong Kong. Among them, though, we can see that Mr. Kang Hyung-gu, Kim Dong-yu, Choi So-young, Choi Young-gul, Lee Se-hyun, Song Hyun-suk, Choi Soo-gang, something like that. Well, the artist of the abroad, I can see that firstly the Kim Suja. She is very famous because of the pottery, where the painting goes. And Mr. Kang Ik-jung, where Korean alphabet series is for the big buildings. And Mr. Sodo, the installation or the painting, something like that. And the Libul, who had an exhibition in the Moriarty Center. And I want to show which artists are now is showing at Art Taipei. Momentarily, I want to show the one table, art fairs in Asian countries, and which country participate in which countries other art fairs. You can see the Art Beijing, CIG, SH Contemporary, Art Hong Kong. And Korean KEONG and Art Taipei and Art Fair Tokyo, Japan. Well, many galleries wants to participate in the Art Hong Kong now, as you know well, but it is very miserable situation between Korea and Taiwan. Well, only 5 or 6 galleries participate in the Art Taipei, and nobody come to Korea. So, it is the commercial because, so I don't mention about much more. But anyway, the Asian epoch comes now. So I want to propose we exchange more and more. After 10 or 20 years, nobody knows. So actually, nobody knows size Gangnam Style was so popular in the world. Because last year we invited him to our campus. At the time, his songs cost or price very low, but now we have to pay 5 times or 10 times. Nobody knows. Okay. Galleries at Taipei. 2 years ago I visited here, and the last day now, but Arario Gallery and Kais Kanat, Riverside, no more participates, no longer, So now I saw last night only 5 Korean galleries participated this year. I hope more galleries participate in the Taipei.